And at first, I wasn't sure what to make of it, and then I realized she was herding me, like, and she's a Belgian Shepherd. And she used to do that to my kids when it was time to leave the beach. I would say, okay guys, we're going. And she would go find my daughter, now 15, but when she was itty bitty, she was herdable. And she would find my son and the other dogs, and she would bring everybody back to the truck. So she's leaning on my leg, barking and freaking out, like, Dad, we gotta go. And still, on idiot mode, I'm thinking, hey now, I'm the alpha, you don't herd me, I tell you when it's time to go. And right as I was like, you know, turning around to scold her, I hear this big kind of sound like somebody had blown berries out their nose. And this big bear stands up on, it's this mama sow, I think, stands up on her hind legs on my left, about as far away as Rick here is, behind a hedge of, you know, manzanita and some other brush. And I said a few words that, given the Yankee in the front row here, I won't repeat. And I was like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. So then my dog really freaks out because there's Mama Bear. And bears, as Mike alluded, well, black bears, they are big chickens. I mean, bottom line, they associate, in the forest, they associate humans with guns and dogs and misfortune, right? So the bear takes off. And for one of the few times in her life, my dog doesn't listen. My dog takes off after the bear. And then I'm thinking, I'm like, when I get home, my wife is gonna kill me. Right? So dog takes off, I grab a couple rocks just in case, and I start my marine cadences and I start jogging out of there. My dog catches up with me shortly thereafter. Of course, I praise her. I feed her my peanut butter and jelly sandwich to reinforce such great behavior, and we get out of there. We get to the junction where we're to turn off and head back down to the truck. Right there.
And the bear is there.
Who said that? Who ruined my story? That's right, there's the bear. And looking up the trail, there's this bear going, and I'm like, oh, we can't like walk back to the bear. So, and she's panting, you know, catching her breath, sitting on the trail, like 100, 200 yards up the trail. So, okay, good job, bear, you got me. So we jog down to the next junction and double back, and we get to a point just past where the trail kind of re-meets with the turnoff here. And my dog stopped, you know, and the whole time her hackles had been up and she was, you know, whiny and edgy and her tail was out. I mean, all this. She kind of does one of those, takes a survey, you know, with her nose of the air, and then completely everything just drops. Tail goes down, her ears are happy, her hackles are down, and she just trots down the trail. So obviously the smell was gone or whatever, but that was it. So really it was, my dog is smarter than I am, and I Thanks,
Oh, thank you, Fred. I love that story.
Okay.
I wonder if we ought to open it up to some questions because we're getting short on time.
Well, I understand about the Lucy Trail. And I went to the ranger station and they said, we don't have any trail calls.
Don't ask the rangers for information. There are none left.
One ranger right here.
He's sitting right here.
That's it. That's the only ranger.
The front desk won't know anything about anything. Sorry if you're in the audience.
I do. Lucy's Trail, it's called. This is the third trail that was built and or reopened on the Valley View Preserve. So that was opened up about a year ago and comes off a shelf road just east of the Fox Canyon Trailhead. So it creates a loop opportunity with the foothill trail hitting Fox and coming back down. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, well, who's Lucy? One was Tyler, kind of called me, and then the other direction.
Okay.
Apparently it ties also into the fuel trail.
Yes, it ties into the Fuel Break Road, which is a Forest Service fire road that is parallel to the foothill trail, but north of it, running east and west. And then that goes into what's called the Fuel Break Road Trail, which is a trail which connects to Gridley Trail. And Lucy is a person who is a good friend of the Ojai Valley Land Conservancy who helped make that trail possible.
And one comment I have is that we took that, the Fox Trail, and took it over to the Brat Trail.
That's right.
And lo and behold, there was never a sign. When we got to the Brat Trail, I said, I never knew you could do this. And it was just interesting that there was no way. I had gone by there many times and I didn't realize there was a trail.
Well, I just put a sign in there about a month ago, so maybe that was since before you were there. But yeah, now there is a sign on the Pratt Trail that the Forest Service gave permission for.
Cricket?
Okay, I have a story for John, talking about the ranger. I read an article by Mr. Wennick, talking about newspaper articles. He used to write about the old days here in Ojai. And he told a story that Teddy Roosevelt set up the whole Forest Service thing. And he sent his man Gifford Pinchot out here to find out about the Los Padres National Forest. So, Gifford Pinchot, I guess, is the head of the Forest Service at that time. So they assigned him a guide, and the guide was Margaret Clark. What's her name, Margaret?
Hunt.
Hunt, Maggie Hunt.
Right.
Yeah. She was the head of the horse department at Thatcher School. And apparently he was incensed that they assigned a woman to take him into the backcountry. But the word is that Maggie Hunt knew this backcountry, every inch of it. And she took Gifford Pinchot all around. And by the end of that time, Gifford Pinchot was putty and Maggie Hunt. And he gave her a key to every Forest National Park, and he ended up sending his son to Thatcher School. So that's a little ranger kind of thing.
One story dates way before my time is President McKinley and Roosevelt were both visited the Santa Barbara Ranger District in their day, in around 1905 and a little bit earlier period. But there's a Colonel Slauson who was a forest supervisor, and he was for the Santa Barbara National Forest, I believe they called it then, but he lived in Ojai. And Doc Jarman told me and showed me where he lived, and it's in the house behind the Mormon church in Ojai. It used to be painted green trim, a White House with green trim, but he was a colonel in the Army, but he was also the forest supervisor. And what they did, when Roosevelt and McKinley both came out, he got the forest rangers together, and they escorted him through his visit here in the forest. And I don't know exactly, they were in Ventura. They were not in Santa Barbara, but both of them visited Ventura, as far as I know. I know McKinley did, and Roosevelt started in Santa Barbara, and I think he ended up in Ventura.
Could I add something to that?
Yes.
There's a story that Teddy Roosevelt came out for the Great White Fleet kind of thing, and came to Santa Barbara in, 1904 would it have been? And they had a great big parade, and marching next to him in the parade on horseback was J.D. Reyes, who was an old-time ranger here. And that's who Teddy Roosevelt wanted to have next to him, was the Ojai Ranger. So that was pretty special, I thought.
Thanks, Fred. We have about time for one more. We're going to continue the conversation afterwards. For those of you who want to drive on over to Ojai Beverage Company for an ale or two, we have a table for about 20 people reserved over there at OBC. So if you want to keep talking trails and tales, and we can take, the gentleman here in the middle had a question.
Is there any chance of continuing the Foothill Trail to tie into the Gridley Trail? That would make a nice...
That's a great question and a topical one. Ever since the Land Conservancy bought the Valley View Preserve, that's been on our radar. The story with that is indeed the Foothill Trail continued east to almost, actually do a driveway just up off of Gridley. But we are to this day trying to find form relationships with the two owners of the next two properties. One is the Mercer family, and the next property belongs to a gentleman who's in jail. So if anybody knows him.
The original Foothill Trail didn't go all the way to Gridley, but it was on private land, and the Forest Service didn't have an easement on it, and Colbert owned the property. And he came up to me one day and he says, he had had some damage to a water line or something. Him and his wife came in, and they said, well, we don't care if people hike over the trail. We just don't want you to encourage it or maintain it. And so, but that was a long time ago, you know, and the property changes hands, and I don't know who owns it now, so. But that was the Colbert property then, and that was his opinion, is he didn't care if anyone hiked it, but he didn't want to encourage hikers to use it.
Mike, along with the crew, barbecue coming up here in a couple. You want to invite everybody?
I'd like to invite everybody, I don't know the date. The 11th, okay, there we go. I'm kind of in the busy mode right now. Tomorrow, Monday and Tuesday, we'll be in Thousand Oaks working for the canal people over there. They have 16,000 acres and 140 miles of trail. Some of it's two-track road from the old ranching days. So we'll be over there for a few days, and we'll start packing in on Wednesday, Thursday to the potholes. And then Saturday, 14 kids will be marching into the potholes for a 7-day trip. And then I think we get Easter off, and then we march back in for a 5-day trip. So I'm kind of been thinking about that. And, but yeah, the barbecue is coming up, and I know it's in that Ojai Quarterly magazine, and I think there's some board members here that can tell you the exact dates, and we sure appreciate it. There's some pictures back there of what the kids do, and it's pretty amazing. They pick it up pretty quick. It's hard work. We have a variety of kids, aged from 14 years of age. Well, in fact, on this trip, there'll be a 14-year-old going, and most of them are probably about 15 to 17, and then some of our supervisors in their early 20s. And they've been doing a lot of work for fishing game. Right down on Creek Road, if you notice, a lot of the Mexican fan palms are gone, eucalyptus trees are gone, ash trees.